DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. I'll be joined by two attorneys to discuss DACA, a program that allowed people who enter the United States as minors and had either entered or remained in the country illegally to receive a 2-year period of deferred action from deportation and to be eligible to get a work permit. We'll also discuss the 90-day rule that requires visitors who enter the country on a visa to follow their stated plans for a minimum of 3 months. Also in this program, Kellan Esperance will be talking about mental health in the workplace, and Perkins from the Remedy Network will be talking about his program. But DACA, let me welcome my guests, attorneys Leann Stanek and Aayah El-Naggar. Welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you.
Thank you.
People are still asking questions about DACA. It's all over the news.
It is.
And you are the experts. So
Yes.
tell me, where are we with DACA?
So at this point in time, individuals who currently have DACA protection will lose their protection on March 5th of 2018. And there's currently not a venue that they can reapply or renew at this time.
So what happens between now and then? March what?
March 5th, 2018.
That's
What
when
happens?
people will start to lose their status, yeah.
Do you see any reversal of this in the future?
Well, it's set up so that there's a 6-month window for Congress to step in and either decide to continue the program or come up with an alternative solution. And we don't have any idea right now what the alternative solution is. That's just something that's being discussed, but we don't know.
So you're really asking people to begin contacting their congresspersons?
Right.
Yes.
What is the president's continued mouthings about DACA doing to our communities, people who need to benefit from DACA?
At this point in time, it seems to be very clear that the Trump administration does not want to renew the DACA program. They're kind of handing it over to Congress. So they're saying, Congress, this is your realm. You need to come up with a solution. Otherwise, they're not going to step in. So if Congress doesn't come up with a solution by March 5th, individuals on DACA will start to lose their status. And it will continue to be that people can no longer apply for this program.
You attorneys must be very busy.
Yes.
We're very busy answering a lot of questions. And some of them we don't actually have the answers for. Some of it is wait and see. And some of it is prepare for the future. So find out through your local or personal attorney whether you have other options, because some students that may have gotten jobs under DACA may be eligible for an employment visa because they've been working for the same company under DACA for years. So this might be a good time to go ahead and ask, will you sponsor me?
Who are they going to ask?
They would ask their employer. Because currently they're able to work under DACA, but if they are not allowed to renew DACA, they will not have a status to stay in the U.S.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. What about people who have decided once they are here to do something else than what they had on the paper that they signed once they move into the country? What happens to them if they decide to do something else?
If they decide to do something else, then they should attempt to change their status before their DACA status terminates. The best thing would be to apply for another visa or another immigrant application with enough time to receive a decision before their DACA status ends.
And will the officials be willing to work with them in?
There's
That's
really
a good
no way of
question.
knowing.
Yeah.
The best advice we can give is to talk to an immigration attorney, see what the facts of your specific case are, what solutions we might be able to come up with. Everybody's going to be different. We don't know how officers are going to handle this situation, but I think the best thing we can do is at least try to come up with alternative solutions. And like you mentioned earlier, really contact Congress and really put the pressure there to create a permanent program.
You said earlier that most visitor visas are issued for a maximum of 90 days. What do people do within that 90 days?
So there's a little bit of a difference, just technically. Some visitor visas are issued for a maximum of 6 months. For example, tourist visas, when you come into the country, usually you're allowed to stay for 6 months. But sometimes, if you're here, for example, on a visa waiver program, you're only allowed to stay 90 days. And there's actually a new rule that's come up that we thought about discussing today, the 90-day rule. And that's something that's going to affect especially individuals who are coming here who aren't able to stay more than 90 days.
So let's talk about the 90-day rule.
Okay.
Are people really aware of this? I've never heard about it before.
Probably not.
I don't think most people are aware of the 90-day rule because they don't know that there was a 30, 60, 90-day rule before that. Yes, this is the look that we get often from our clients when we try to explain to them that there's a rule that's been in existence for many years. And there are a lot of misconceptions about it. There will be even more misconceptions about it going forward because the time period has changed now from 30, 60, 90 to 90. So the original rule was promulgated under the Foreign Affairs Manual, which governs consulate officials abroad when they're adjudicating visa applications. Mm-hmm. And USCIS mirrored it in a policy manual. So the same rule that governs officials abroad also governs immigration officials here. Mm-hmm. And under the new rule, which is the 90-day rule, within the 90 days that you're here, you're not permitted to, well, I shouldn't say you're not permitted, it's not advisable to engage in any sort of activities that go against your non-immigrant intent. So if you come here on a non-immigrant visa, you're expected to have non-immigrant intent. And that means that you intend to only be in the United States temporarily. You are not sort of communicating that you want to stay here longer or even explore other avenues to stay here longer. And so under the 90-day rule, if you make certain actions that go against that non-immigrant intent, it will be presumed that you had willfully misrepresented your intent at the time that you applied for your visa or at the time that you entered the United States.
So what about people who decide they want to get married? Legitimately. Decide they want to get married or they want to go to school.
Of course, so that's actually the big group that's going to be affected by this. So there's nothing in the law that prevents somebody from having a genuine change of intention. If you, after you come into the country, you truly decide, wait a second, I had an epiphany, I want to get married and I want to stay with my spouse or I want to study, this isn't going to keep you from doing that. But it is going to make it much more difficult for you if you decide to take action within the first 90 days of coming into the country. In those situations, I think the best course would likely be to just wait past the 90 days to take any sort of action. If you find yourself in a situation where you can't wait 90 days, talk to an immigration attorney. What this rule is basically saying is that the burden is now going to be on you as the applicant to prove to the officer that you did not have that you did not willfully misrepresent your intention upon entry. So it's not impossible, but this rule is going to make it much more difficult. And if applicants aren't prepared and they don't know, they might find themselves in, an uphill battle. So this is one of the situations where across the board it's probably better to wait 90 days. Again, it's always better to consult with the immigration attorney directly, talk about the facts of your case, see if you have the evidence that you'll probably need in order to overcome this presumption.
Right. So I think the key point is that it's a rebuttable presumption.
Yes.
So the officer will have to presume that you have willfully misrepresented your intent if you make these changes. And the changes may be marriage, the changes may be engaging in unauthorized employment, and it may also be enrolling in an educational program, which is quite common. People come here, they see our universities or maybe a community college that they like or are interested in. They maybe apply not thinking that that's going to affect their ability to actually apply for an F1 student visa in the future because they're thinking, I'm here, I got into the school, let me change my status now to a student visa. But if you made that change within the first 90 days of being here, then you're going to be considered to have willfully misrepresented your intent.
And you can be deported.
So, right, so what that leads to, this willful misrepresentation, is that it leads to a permanent bar on your ability to enter the U.S. So you'll be considered to be inadmissible. So that's within the law, that's what you're trying to avoid. You never want to be found to be inadmissible under the law. And if you violate this so-called 90-day rule, you can be found inadmissible, which affects your ability to change your status to another visa, and it could affect your ability to apply for a new visa in the future.
Let's talk about this B1, B2 visas. What exactly is that for those people who don't know?
Sure.
And is this a visa that you can change to if you wanted to, or is this a visa you come here with or come here under?
So the B1, B2 visa is for tourists or for business, but not for employment. It's just like if you're coming here to
On holiday.
meet business, your business partners, or you're just here for a conference, for example, that would be the business portion of the B1, B2. Or if you're just coming here to visit family, friends, just to go to Disney World or something, that would be a tourist. And that's usually done abroad. So you usually do that at a consular office abroad. What happens when you get the B1, B2 and you come into the U.S., a lot of times people start to change their status from a tourist visa to something else, let's say a student visa or trying to think of another
An employment visa,
yeah,
any other
let's
visa.
say an employment visa or something like that. But the most common mistake that we see with clients that come to us is they try to do it too soon before they come to us, and then we have to try to dig them out of a hole. And basically, if you do that in this situation with this new 90-day rule, it's going to be a lot harder for us to help people out.
So the key point with B1, B2s is that it's a travel/business visa, but it's a non-immigrant visa.
Yes.
So the non-immigrant intent is what's necessary to even obtain the visa, and it's also necessary for entering the country. This change of intent, if it does happen genuinely and you can show that it happened, it must happen after you entered the U.S.
There are several lawsuits that are being brought against the president.
Yes.
Let's talk about those lawsuits. Let's talk about whether or not you think they can be successful.
That's a loaded question. There are, I believe, about 15 states, I
Right.
think, was the latest thing that I saw that have filed suits, like just states that have filed suits against, including New York State.
New York State.
Against the Trump administration over DACA, over ending DACA. So really don't know. Someone I think even just filed yesterday, I believe a city filed yesterday. So these things are happening, you know. I don't think we've even had time to go through all the specifics of each lawsuit, but I think it's important to keep up with these to see, you know, if there will be any effect. I mean, after the Trump travel ban the first time, you know, there were a lot of lawsuits and that actually became effective. So maybe this time, you know, it will be fruitful.
I think it would be an important point to bring up to your congressperson when you reach out to them, saying that this is a very serious issue. If it wasn't, so many states and so many individuals and so many organizations would not be speaking out against it. And they certainly would not be suing the administration for doing what they're doing if it was something that we all agreed with.
What kind of organization is necessary? I mean, you, as an attorney, you probably wouldn't be advising people about the avenues to reach out to a congressperson. Lots of people see them as someone out there in the distance.
For sure, it's difficult to think that you can just call them up, but you can actually go through certain nonprofits like the ACLU. I think they have a page where you can go put your information in, and it's maybe automatically comes up that they'll reach out to you to make a phone call. Sometimes there are automatic emails, but a lot of organizations have these sort of like automated systems where it's very easy to reach out to a congressperson. You don't have to sit down and physically write a letter to your congressperson anymore. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, for example, the ACLU, the page that she's talking about, all you have to do is put in your zip code and your phone number, I think, and they'll actually call you on your phone and connect you to the correct congressperson. And they also have like a guideline of what to say when you're talking to them. So they make it really easy to do.
That's true.
It won't take that much of your time at all. Just as much time as it takes to Google like ACLU, like immigration. That's basically it.
And your locally elected officials can help in that process as well? Like the city council person or the state senator or the state assembly person? Or this is only at the federal level?
So this is at the federal level, and so the initial people that we need to be contacting now are your senators, but also your representatives. I think what local representatives can do is, I guess, maybe put pressure on, you know, at the federal level. But aside from that, I'm not sure, because what the Trump administration is essentially doing is saying Congress needs to handle this. So they're the ones we really need to be putting pressure on.
Is this an uphill battle that you are facing, and that on behalf of our persons, or I was going to say immigrants, but on behalf of our immigrants, the battle to effect the changes that are going to be necessary for them to remain here? Do you see that as an uphill battle that you probably will not win?
I don't think that we won't win it. I think it's everyone has to do the work. If nobody does the work, then we probably will lose. But if everybody reaches out to their congressperson, if it's made clear, if it stays in the media, in the news, and it's like a headline on a regular basis, I think Congress will have no choice but to do what it's meant to do, which is support its constituents and represent them in their concerns.
How do people contact you? I know you are attorneys, so tell me a little bit about what you do.
Oh, okay. So we are a family and employment immigration firm. We practice mainly immigration. We also have a human rights initiative, so we work with women who are in forced or arranged marriage situations that may need immigration support. We do this through a nonprofit. That's one of our initiatives. We're currently working on a new project called This American Dream, where we're telling the stories of immigrants and basically shedding light on what their lives are like, how they got here, what they're doing here, what the immigration path is that they took to be here, to humanize their stories. And that's a huge part of our initiative. But outside of that, we do what other immigration attorneys do. We represent people who want to get visas, who want to change their status. Hopefully, we will be representing the DACA recipients that don't know what's going to happen next to them. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do. We try to help people out. We, like she said, we work with families, we work with businesses.
And the name of your company again is?
Stanek and El-Naggar.
Stanek?
And El-Naggar.
So Stanek and El-Naggar. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, thanks.
I came here as an immigrant, obviously.
Oh, lovely. I did too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I kind of appreciate what people are going through.
Yeah,
and
same.
the need to have the kind of support even from their elected officials.
Right.
Even from the level of president.
Yeah.
People are afraid because of his daily mouthings or weekly mouthings.
Right.
What do you say to your clients when they open the newspaper almost every day and they see that there's something about these immigrants?
It's getting harder and harder, I think,
Yeah.
to reassure our clients over time because things are constantly changing. Just try to connect with them, tell them that, we understand what they're going through to some extent, and we'll do our best to help them. And
Right.
Attorneys Leann Stanek and Aayah El-Naggar. Useful information for Brooklyn 45 viewers. Next, here is Kellan Esperance with a word about mental health in the workplace.
Many of us are aware of mental illness in our community, but what about in the workplace? It's estimated that about 560 million Americans are suffering from anxiety and depression. That number doesn't include the other mental health conditions, but let's talk about anxiety and depression in the workplace. About 60% of people suffering from anxiety are not receiving treatment, and more than 80% of people with moderate symptoms of depression do not seek professional help. These individuals are your supervisors and your dear coworker in the next cubicle. Working is good for one's mental health, but a negative workplace such as harassment and bullying are hostile environments for those aware and unaware of their mental health condition. One way to ensure a healthy workplace is by promoting mental wellness. That means creating a supportive, rewarding, and positive environment. I am Kellan. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you, Kellan. My next guest is Callie Perkins from the Remedy Network. Remedy, that name says a lot.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about the Remedy Network.
Definitely. Well, first, I just wanted to say it's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Tate. I'm glad to be on the show. And Remedy Network, basically, we host educational talks for millennials, and we also promote mental health advocacy in New York City.
For millennials, why millennials?
Millennials represent such a large segment in New York. There's so many millennials. Actually, in New York City alone, New York has the most college students in the world. And so it's just a huge segment that we're really focusing on reaching here in New York because there's so many of us.
What kind of support do you give to them? You talk about reaching them, but what kind of support you give once you reach them?
Definitely. Well, one of the things that we like to focus on is equipping the next generation. So we host events on diverse sectors. They're basically TED-style talks on different industries. So we'll invite influencers to really come in and give practical ways on how to reach success in their own life, to give them those hands-on tools, things they wouldn't be able to learn or to engage with if it wasn't for that. So,
where did this idea come from?
Definitely. Well, basically, I started Remedy Network after I left my corporate job. I was working for a Fortune 500 company for almost a couple years, and I read about a young man in the Bronx who was wrongfully convicted of a crime and sent to Rikers Island and spent about 3 years in solitary confinement. And I saw influencers reach out to Khalif after he was released, but also saw the battle that he dealt with. So it was through that journey where I really got the idea for the company.
How many people in your company?
Well, it's me. I'm the executive director, and then we have a board of directors of 5 people and an advisor, they're an amazing team. Mike Elmer, Tracy Gilmore, Catherine Ching, Morgan Hill, Lawrence Lavelle makes up our team. So
your vision for the Remedy Network?
Definitely. Our vision is to see properly resourced millennials in whatever sphere of influence that they represent. To see that they're properly resourced, but also, Mr. Tate, we want to encourage those conversations of mental health, no matter what type of event that we're hosting.
Why mental health?
Mental health is just a huge issue, not in just New York City, but in our world today. Many people think the stigma that comes with mental health or mental health issues, but it's really something that affects all of us to have a positive mental health state. And just when I was interacting with that story with Khalif, that really opened my eyes to see, wow, this is a problem. And we need to remedy that problem, if you will. And how do we do that? So that's some of the questions that I really began to ask when I'm taking this leap of faith to move here.
Great leap of faith. How do you get the word out about the Remedy Network?
Definitely a lot through our social media platforms, our website, of course, which people can find us on there, Instagram, Twitter. And I'm also actually I'm really excited about this. I'm releasing a book on my journey, starting Remedy Network, moving to New York, hosting the events, which comes out around the first quarter of 2018. Okay,
what's the title of the book?
The title of the book is Remedy Network, A Millennial's Journey on Connecting New York City Through Stories.
I'm looking forward to getting a copy of that book.
Yes, sir, of course.
What
Definitely.
kind of support do you get from elected officials?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, one of our largest partners is actually the New York City Mayor's Office. Just spectacular group of people. Most definitely. Even with the Center for Faith and Community Partnerships, is probably our largest partner, which is led by Jonathan Soto, a friend of mine and also a huge advocate and leader in the city.
Impressive, impressive. The Remedy Network.
Yes, sir.
How do people find you on social media?
Yeah, on Instagram, we're simply Remedy Network. My Instagram handle is JCALEB, Caleb, and also remedynetwork.com. They can find everything, especially about the book coming out and all that what we're doing.
Wonderful. Caleb Perkins. Caleb, correct?
Yes, sir. You got it.
Caleb Perkins of the Remedy Network. Thank you. And thanks also to Leann Stanek and Aayah El-Naggar from the law firm Stanek and El-Naggar for information about DACA that will benefit so many communities in Brooklyn and indeed across the United States. For people you know who may have missed this program, or if you want to see it again, it's on our Brooklyn 45 TV YouTube page. We'd love to hear from you. So post your comments on our Facebook page, Brooklyn 45 TV, or email us at info@brooklyn45.com. Well, on behalf of our entire Brooklyn 45 team, I'm Sam Tate.